Hi, I'm Frankie. This is Rocio.
Hi, yes, we are neurodivergent parenthood. Thank you so much for being here again in one of our
So,
chats.
every week or every couple of weeks, we try and have a chat just about the experiences of our own experiences of being neurodivergent and being part of a neurodivergent family and things like that as well. We've just been having a little bit of a chat ourselves about our own experiences of being dysregulated this week and also managing our children's dysregulation and kind of the like back and forth that leads to. And we just both came up with this topic of why is it that neurodivergent parents always feel like we're failing? So obviously it's like quite an emotive topic, and it very closely relates to all those things like dysregulation as well. So I thought maybe Rocio, you had some fantastic examples. So what could you tell us about this sort of experience of feeling like you're failing as a neurodivergent parent?
Um, yes, I exactly. I wonder, yeah, probably that you're like people are watching, you're watching this and feeling many times that you fail, or like, yeah, you're failing at being your kid's mom or dad, and you have this recurring feeling like not doing it right. And basically, just to say that we both, Frank and I, have had, and will have that feeling again. Yeah, it's part of our experience of being parents. Um, and I think one of the things is obviously like being a parent, like you're becoming like a guide for your kids. And that guide needs to you need to be in a certain presence, in a certain role. And sometimes things are not going to plan. You're not always be able to show up in that as a guide, right? To hold space, to be conscious, to be present in the way you want. And this week, what happened to me was that I went to bed really late the night before because I'm still one of my biggest challenges for me is one of the triggers of my dysregulation episodes in the morning, especially during school runs, is that when I sleep really little the night before. So this time I think I slept around 3 hours. I don't remember what I was doing the night before, but that morning I got up and I was like, I think I have enough fuel to run this morning. And then the morning progressed and my son was being a bit tricky, being a bit challenging. He's like, "Mommy, I want this for breakfast," and I was like, "That's not what I have." And it's like, "Oh, I can get this done." Trying to make the school lunch packet and stuff. And there was a point in which I started telling him, "Hey, like, we're gonna get late to school," and he was like, "Mommy, I'm just trying to organize my Legos. There's no time for you Legos right now. Like, we need to go to school." Trying to pull him away from what he was doing. He was trying to regulate himself by tidying up his Legos, and I wasn't able to let him. And at some point at the door of my flat, he looked at me and like with like this face of I don't know what was his face like, but I think it was deeply anxious and sad, and looked at me and said, "Mommy, why you being mean to me?" He said to me, "You being mean to me. You hate me. Why are you hating me, Mommy? Why do you hate me?" And I was like, "I don't hate you." And it said to me, "I really, really want to give up on myself right now. Like I don't want to. Yeah, I want to give up on myself. And I was like, at that moment, Frankie, and you folks that you're listening to, you that maybe this happened to you before, I felt like a slap in my face, like where I woke up. I think I was deep down in my reptilian brain, really triggered in this like fight and fight, in this kind of fighting mode in which I was getting everything done really fast, and I was like, oh my god, like I need to go back to whatever I was to be his mom. And then I apologized and I went to him and said, "I'm really sorry. I love you. I don't hate you, of course not. I was deep down in this part of my brain." I explained to him his sage so he can understand a bit more of these concepts. What was happening to me, I said, sometimes our brain don't let us connect and be really ourselves. And I was so totally off. I'm really sorry. And then I was like, oh my God. So it never occurred to me, Frankie, that for a kid, when we're not being loving to them and being like present, the experience for a kid can be like we hate them or we're not allowing them to be themselves.
Mm.
And that for a kid is like the contrary of love. So it just kind of it took me a couple of days to process this experience and learn from it, but it was deeply meaningful for me.
I think something for me that really stands out from like your story and totally resonates with me as well is just that kind of like um when we're so sort of goal oriented, we're trying to get things done, and like there's tasks and there's like and those are the like the sort of trigger times across the day as well. It's like when we're so stuck in the things that we should do, that we kind of forget the stuff that's really important. And I think that that can be, I think part of it is the challenges that things creep up, or they happen like out of context as well. Like I think like you didn't notice something was a problem because you were so busy doing that you weren't there like experiencing with them. And I think
Yeah.
that can be really challenging. I mean, for sure, mornings are just like I often talk about how I'm a very different parent on like a Wednesday morning where I'm just screaming like "What shits!" than I am like on a Saturday morning when I'm like, "Yeah, like we'll do a train track." And then there's something about the kind of the goals and the tasks, and that's tricky because everyone has to deal with those. But I guess if you're a neurodivergent parent and it takes more of your energy, it takes more of your like it's your last ounce of sort of flexibility because you just like no, we have to get within, we have to make these things work.
Mm,
Um, that where those things can go a bit more wrong, and especially the idea of like where it feels um important, like publicly, like this idea like well I've got to get my kids to school because otherwise then people will think X, Y, and Z. So it then creates this external pressure, or I have to do this, or I become this. I have to do this, or I become that. And I think,
yeah,
or I'm thought of as a bad parent, or I'm thought of as a bad employee, or I'm thought of as whatever else it is. So there's
absolutely.
lots of stuff there that's kind of, and for me, one of the big parts that comes from is this kind of sense of this all these narratives about how come everyone else can do it, or I have to do what everyone else is able to do, or and we're comparing ourselves to this sort of comparison with other people leads us to then force ourselves to get things done. And then we
Mm.
get things done, we're not actually paying attention to our children. So I feel like those are some of these things that kind of can exacerbate it.
Yeah, I think I was like when you were saying that, and I was thinking of what Mika felt that at that time at that point, um, was that I wasn't allowing him to be himself. So you're not allowed to be you. I think that's what I was conveying to him because we need to rush to school and get there, you know. And I think for a kid that's incredibly harsh, you know, to say, oh, I cannot be myself. And the way they experience it is like, oh, I cannot be myself. My mom, my daddy doesn't love me, you know. And it's really hard crushing at that time to also to be aware as a parent that you make your kids feel that way. Sometimes we are in the so that deep down in the kind of triggered by dysregulation and that we're not aware of what's going on around us. And I think when we arrive to that moment of consciousness, oh my God, what happened when we look back? It's really difficult to forgive ourselves. It's so crushing for our own selves as parents to feel that we might have caused some damage or like some hurt to our kids, which are the people that we love the most, probably, and that we actually did something really wrong. So feeling guilty, feeling ashamed, as we were thinking, we were talking about this with Frankie just before the chat, it's like it's really tricky. How do you get back up at once you feel so ashamed of what you did? And probably yeah, if you're listening to this, you might have felt like this before, and many times and feeling maybe stuck at that in that feeling. What do you do afterwards when you actually want to make turn the page around and kind of forget about it, make it like that didn't happen, right? Because it's so
Mm,
shocking for yourself even. And so
yeah.
what can you do afterwards? Yeah,
I
that's the
mean,
question.
one of the things is for me is just about recognizing that how these things relate to each other, how this sense that you're failing someone then leads to something else going wrong, and it's these sort of cyclical. So like I was thinking about there's a model called the compass of shame. I don't know if you've seen
Mm.
it, Rosie. And it just has
No,
this I'll have to find the reference for it somewhere. But it kind of has several different stages, and it talks about how uh when you've sort of accidentally or something's come outwardly and you sort of attacked somebody else in some way, which sort of like demanding someone does something on your schedule when it doesn't work for them at all. That's kind of like, it's towards them. And then it leads this moment where you kind of feel like, oh my gosh, I've done something awful to them, and then you withdraw and
mm,
you start shutting yourself off for things. and you start feeling bad about yourself. And then the only repercussion from feeling really bad about yourself is attacking myself.
Yes.
And then it's like, then that sort of leads you to this kind of sense of like, well, I should stay away from people because I'm not doing a good job. And these things lead into each other. So they literally say like attacking other people, withdrawing, attacking yourself, then avoiding other people. Then that leads to attacking other people. It just goes round and round and round in circles because actually shame is a really, what's the word? It's like a motivator, but the opposite. It's so strong in
Yeah.
driving your behavior. And it's
It,
about being lack of kindness to yourself, and that still has repercussions on other people. No one else is feeling happier when you've
mm,
beaten yourself up about what a bad failure you were. That's not actually
yeah.
resulted in any positivity. Nothing, your kids are not better off if you decide that you are a failure than if you decide that actually that wasn't great, but it's not who I am, and trying to find something about moving on.
Yeah, I think as you said, like, I think shame is one of the most insidious experiences that we can have, like emotional and body experiences, because it's not just emotional. Your whole nervous system shuts down when you're in shame, you know? And I think it's like, oh, are you froze? And then as you said, you withdraw and then you don't want to engage with the world anymore. Almost like, okay, it's almost giving up. So when my son said to me, I want to give up, I want to give up on things. I was like, after that I have for a second the thought of, oh my god, I'm being a shitty mom, I'm being crappy at this time, you know. And I could have thought like, oh, I'm a crappy mom, because I felt really ashamed of what I've just done. And but then I realized that I had a choice, you know. But the thing is that, and I could choose something a bit more productive and better for him, which is going back to be his mom. Yeah, that movement can take us some time to practice it. It's not that easy to get out of shame. For all of us, it's difficult. Yeah, so if you hearing this and you find that, oh, I don't know what to do, some of the things that tricks that I learned is like, how could I see this situation a little bit, is kind of tricky, but a little bit, I mean, lightheartedly, a little bit funnier, um, a little bit with some kind of trick that you can see this experience as something that you can learn from, and maybe with a little of humor, instead of being so mortifying, you know. So then you can see it in that way, and you move away, you move out of that. For instance, for me, when my son was like, I said to him, yeah, I was in my silly brain, like I was like, I didn't say the reptilian, but I said I was just kind of, my brain shut down and I was just being automatic. I wasn't being present. That I wasn't with you. I wasn't being your my as I usually am. I'm sorry. And he's like, oh, there's a good brain and a bad brain. And I was like, yeah. So I could have said, yeah, it's a reptilian, silly, stupid brain. I was in my, and he would have been, oh yeah. So we could have like laughed about it. Like, yeah, I was like being, sometimes I said to him, I'm sorry, I was becoming a bit of a witch, the witch mom. So how can we take it with a bit of humor? Because that when we started connecting with him and giving some meaning to this experience and looking at it with a bit of humor. So he's like, oh, it's a good brain, never brain. Yeah, it is. That helped him and helped us both to move out of this stage of being stuck in that situation, in the shame, in the yeah, in all of that. So
I
I
think
would, yeah, that's a good invitation for you folks, yeah, listening to this.
that's a really good example. Like, the idea of trying to, it's almost like create a little bit of levity because these things just become such strange situations. Everyone's feeling up here, and it's like, what can you do to just dissipate that a little bit? And very similar. So I was sharing example with Ricio about my daughter who's neurodivergent, her dysregulation yesterday. And one of the reasons why this comes up is often sometimes that we just don't realize it's coming because it's coming from a place for her of like huge amounts of excitement, and then suddenly there's this huge explosion of energy which actually comes out in a way that is quite tricky. So yesterday she was super excited about something. I had lots of big emotions, and then that led her to give my husband a really good bite on the shoulder because she was overexcited, and obviously he didn't respond great to that, and I didn't respond great to that, which then led her to throwing herself in her bedroom and her very good sensory activity, which is pouring out every toy you own into her entire bedroom. And the idea of just being able to take a step back and be like, whoa, did you just spit?
Yeah.
trying to like reduce the stress of it a little bit because you realize it's so hard. You realize that you've got it wrong and
Hmm.
our reaction was not good. It wasn't protect like what's the word? Wasn't it just wasn't helpful. It wasn't actually to move anything forward. Um, but being able to stop and be like, whoa, what just happened there? It was actually an opportunity to like move the situation forward.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's about going back and being like, oh, we're really sorry. We got really frustrated with you. And I know you
Yeah.
were just excited. And like, can we come help you tidy up your toys a little bit? Just being able to come in a bit more gentle. And also it feels good for you as a parent as well. We were saying earlier, like, saying to yourself, "Oh, I'm a failure. I'm doing a rubbish job. I'm a bad
Hmm.
mum." None of that is actually, in a very pragmatic way, who's that helping? That's not helping anybody.
No,
But actually
absolutely.
saying like, "Whoa, no one was their best there. That's okay. We can move forward. We're all right." And I think that's actually more productive. That's what I should think of earlier. A bit more productive to an opportunity to like learn from an experience. And so next time I'll know when she does something that's that exciting, I'll be like, okay, just remember sometimes those big highs come like followed by a very big fall or something very surprising behavior. Um yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. What you're saying is so, so important. I was thinking that how can we like why do we feel more like when we're neurodivergent and neurodivergent parents we can feel like we're failing because our expectation more often because our expectation is we have this idea of being an ideal parent, the parent that we want to be, and we're not always able to be that person all the time. We all have moments of dysregulation, and every person, be neurodivergent or non neurodivergent, for some of us, folks happens a bit more often because our brains are more sensitive. As Frankie and I, we shared with you in our previous webinar, that if you like to watch it and learn more how to get yourself back up, and after a moment of dysregulation, we're going to put the link after, like at the end of this video. But I think the message is like whatever that we have done so far, like up until now, we can always have a new choice. Yeah, every given time that you have in your life is a new opportunity to choose who you want to be, how do you want to show up. So instead of like giving up on yourself and saying, "Oh, I'm a crappy mom, I'm a crappy dad. Oh, what have I done?" and getting stuck on the shame, our invitation is to say, "Give yourself another chance, get get back up, it's possible," and then you make a different choice to be, as Frankie said, talk to your kid, you can repair it. Sometimes it's not so much the experience of this connection with someone that is what hurts us and can produce like a situation of suffering for a kid or for someone else, is that we didn't have the time to repair and reconnect with that person. So these connections are part of any relationship. Is how, what do we do with them that define the experience for someone, for yourself and for someone else. So give yourself time, as Frankie did, like reconnect with your kid, try to repair it, apologize, make more sense, be a bit more gentle as you did, Frankie, like having a chat about it, making sense of what happened. Yeah. And then and continue learning. So we're all in this path of learning how to be imperfect parents and the best parents we can be at any given
I think
time.
this so much of it as well is just this idea of like not labeling yourself so bluntly. Like
Yes.
there's no needs to label yourself a shitty parent or a failure. There's just no need. And I think it's also because, yeah, if you're neurodivergent, sometimes you're thinking, I must be getting it wrong. So then you start looking to other people and assuming they have it right. They don't have it right. They absolutely, no one has it right 100% of the time. That's completely just a lie that we somehow convince ourselves is true. And it's sort of we end up in a situation whereby we are comparing like apples and oranges
Mm,
and we're making our judgment by that. There's that amazing Albert Einstein quote about if you were a fish and you tried to judge your ability by climbing a tree, then you would always know you were a failure. Said much eloquently than that.
yeah.
But yeah, we are comparing ourselves to things that are just not like us because people are not like us because there's only one you. And I think just being able to recognize I'm doing parenting how I'm doing parenting.
Mm,
And yeah, like Rosie was saying, always growing, always changing, and that being fine as well. So yeah, I think
yes.
for me the big point is yeah, yes, neurodivergent parents often do feel like they're failing. All parents feel like they're failing sometimes. But if it's an opportunity of just saying, when these events happen, when something feels like it's so sharp and so hurtful to your own view of yourself, and it feels hurtful to your child, that's a great opportunity to just say like, okay, that happened, and I'm gonna learn from it rather than beat myself up, and get into that sense of shame. It's not benefiting anybody. So that's kind of, I guess, our challenge to you is when these things
Absolutely.
happen, what
Yes,
can you do that's not shaming yourself and feeling like a failure because you're not?
exactly. Or if you're in the shame, like how do you get yourself out of that? You know, it's the thing you said, try to find the humorous twist, try to make sense of it. Forgive yourself, basically. Give yourself another chance. We are all imperfect, trying to figure things out. And as Frankie said, that you just need to, your kid needs you to be you being their guide and their parent, not another parent, not your ideal of a parent, and how you think that most parents do things might not work for you as a neurodivergent person. So be yourself, your imperfect self, picking yourself up every time, and your kid is gonna learn how to pick themselves up every time they also mess up, right? So that's the point. And do this together. It's like, I think the whole journey of being a parent is like you doing this with your kid, holding hands, and getting them back up, and yourself when you're dropping, when you're falling on the floor, like you can get up, and that's
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
And exactly what Rosie was saying, that we're there to model. You'd be heartbroken, you'd be heartbroken if you saw your child viewing themselves as a failure because of what was essentially one slip up. So this is
Yes.
not, we don't want that for our kids. So we don't deserve, our kids don't deserve that. We don't deserve that. So it's about modeling that and treat yourself with a bit of kindness. Okay.
Absolutely. So, yes. So with that, I think we wrap up. Do we wrap up? Yes. Just to say thank you for being here, for listening to this chat today. Yeah, I hope that you feel accompanied and making more sense of these experiences. If you'd like to hear more of our next chat upcoming, hit the subscribe button and the notifications so you know when we're releasing another new video. We're going to be releasing a new webinar about transition times and routines for neurodivergent folks, kids, and parents. And so keep, watch the space.
So much. Have a good day. Bye.
Bye.